mean, one of the stories that I want to write at the moment is kind of the inverse of 50 Shades of Grey, where you have, essentially, are they not allowed to write this stuff? Because, here's the thing, right? 50 Shades of Grey and Twilight are immensely... But at the same time, I suppose, because of things like 50 Shades of Grey, a lot of people now are waking up. E.L. James writing 50 Shades of Grey. I will defend E.L. James liking 50 Shades of Grey. I'll defend anyone who... the E.L. Black, or whoever wrote 50 Shades of Grey, that they don't actually want to or listened to the Twilight Saga or 50 Shades of Grey, but I've listened to reviews, and it's starting to sort of be like very simple, you know, sort of Twilight / 50 Shades of Grey thing, but sci-fi vampires in my multiverse, right? It's this idea of, you know, safe, sane and consensual, and, you know, for God's sake, you know, 50 Shades of Grey and Twilight were massive hits.
Yeah. Hell, I'm not even saying I wrote bloody 50 Shades of Grey or whatever. I'm saying that I got...
It's not good, but here's the thing, okay? Twilight and 50 Shades of Grey. In Twilight, you have a girl, genuinely someone who...
in a humiliation of listening to hours of Twilight and 50 Shades of Grey, and, you know, it's almost one of these things where it's like, it could be...
on Twilight and the 50 Shades of Grey trilogy. The 50 Shades of Grey trilogy, interestingly, kind of was feel good in, like,
a sentient Macarena doing the loop-de-doop. This comic makes 50 Shades of Grey look safe, sane, and consensual. It is a
Britain, you know. It's like the 50 Shades of Grey trilogy is so appallingly bad, it makes me feel better about the stuff I write, you know. In fairness, I did literally watch, like, Matt Pat's film theorist take on 50 Shades of Grey and breaking down how, you know, it hate this side myself entirely, is that I know things like 50 Shades of Grey exist, and I happen to know who like it too. But the issue is that you, like, 50 Shades of Grey was written as Twilight fanfic.
the Twilight audiobooks. I will get all of the 50 Shades of Grey audiobooks, and I will listen to them. Article about the BDSM scene in reaction to 50 Shades of Grey coming out, in which they talked about this one instance where
shaming women for liking that kind of stuff. I mean, for God's sake, Twilight and 50 Shades of Grey were written by women.
a Twilight Saga, and the entire, insofar as has currently been released, 50 Shades of Grey saga. I will do that. I will...
That would screw up society so very, very bad, right? And I feel like 50 Shades of Grey is the example. A thing like Game of Thrones, which is trying to be a serious sort of critique on the fantasy genre, and a thing like 50 Shades of Grey, which is clearly just someone because their wives have read 50 Shades of Grey and they want to get tied up and they don't know what they're doing, and big. It won't be the next Game of Thrones, it'll be the next 50 Shades of Grey, i.e. it's going to be the next thing that everybody reads. It's kind of a part of my online persona, but like, when I don't want to say 50 Shades of Grey because people are just going to think of that shitty, and again, right, this is part of where 50 Shades of Grey really fucked up when it came to representing BDSM. Fetish fiction, because fetish fiction and 50 Shades of Grey, right? It's not intended to be podcasts on the podcasts on Twilight and the 50 Shades of Grey trilogy. The 50 Shades of Grey trilogy, interesting, and she absolutely adores 50 Shades of Grey, and she thinks that Christian Grey is the best guy in the world, and in Il James liking 50 Shades of Grey. I'll defend anyone who likes 50 Shades of Grey. But it's still kind of strange and macabre and so problematic. And then you have 50 Shades of Grey, which is Twilight fanfic. Look at Twilight, look at 50 Shades of Grey, right? This actually, by the way, is why 50 Shades of Grey, well, this is part of why 50 Shades of Grey is actually a very terrible... I've got in my head some grotesque sort of parody of 50 Shades of Grey. that some right-wing cuck has just... I'm gonna end up mounting a defense in favour of 50 Shades of Grey, and at the same time, but, like, you know, 50 Shades of Grey and Twilight were written by women writers. You know?